everybody, welcome back to the Wrote Reviews. I'm Baz Collins and my co-host.
Vance Bastion.
And today we are going to take a look at a new film that's just been released. It's only been out a couple of weeks as of the recording of this episode. God only knows when I'll edit it and get it up there. But anyways, life inserts itself. As is the part of the plot of this story that we're talking about. We're talking about Troye Sivan's new flick, 3 Months. Darkly comedic. And it's bizarre to say that about this topic. It's a darkly comedic take on being exposed to HIV and the life repercussions that can be born out of it. And the reason why I say it's kind of funny is because one of the comments I keep seeing over and over about this film is that nobody ever thought you could do a comedic movie about HIV. And I remember Jeffrey was out there, which had some wonderfully comedic moments.
Yeah.
But I think what they shot for in this film was a bit more of the kind of the gay boy, I'm not going to deal with the shit, so I'm going to be snarky because that's my wall. And out of that comes the comedic repartee that happens. Go ahead.
I want movie producers to stop using the word dark comedy. I'm done with it. I didn't actually laugh, so I didn't think it was funny.
I did. I smirked more than laugh. It wasn't laugh out loud funny.
They just don't want to say dramatic, which is what they should have said.
I don't think it was a full drama, though. I think it was maybe a dramedy.
Again, I didn't laugh.
I did. There were things that made me smirk. Primarily because, much like Caleb in the story played by Troye Sivan, I worked in my early 20s at a like mini mart kind of thing. So there were a lot of things that he did that brought back funny ass memories for me. So I saw the humor in it because I lived that kind of life as a young gay boy, freshly out and able to drink, and the stupid mistakes I made, working, and just all of the things, the craziness that can ensue. The wonderful thing about the mini mart I worked at was that, for the most part, with the exception of the manager and her alcoholic daughter, everybody else that worked in that store was queer. So it was a lot like what Caleb goes through working in that. There were a lot of drama things. Even though I could have been on shift, the other two gay people that worked there would sometimes come in and we'd all hang out or we'd keep each other company. So it was kind of like a thing that for me was a happy memory, was a happy recall of stuff that I went through at that time in my life. I also had an HIV scare around that time. Thankfully, nothing happened out of it, which is, great. And I kind of like that in this movie, you don't really fully get an answer for Caleb, but
I figured you'd like that.
Yeah, I do. Because I like the fact that it's open-ended. People can decide for themselves. But in either event, whether he turns out pause at the very end or he doesn't, and I know that's a big reveal here, so I apologize for spoilers, but it's open-ended enough that you can draw your own conclusions. Either he has it, but he took his grandmother's advice and lived his life and pressed forward, or he didn't have it and he still lived his life and pressed forward. The weird thing.
We should probably give people the short what the plot's about.
All right. Yeah. It's a coming of age film about Caleb, a South Florida teen. On the eve of his high school graduation, everything changes when he's exposed to HIV. While he waits 3 months for his results, he finds love in the most unlikely of places.
So we should preface this also by saying this does not take place in the current era. It takes place in the early 2000s. Yeah. Back
2011
when...
is the year that it says.
Okay. So cell phones are only just barely a thing, and
Yes.
HIV testing still takes time.
Yes.
Hence the premise of the film. He has to wait 3 months for a full answer.
Yes, because at each stage, because the antibodies develop over time,
Mhm.
they need to do it once every 30 days. And after the third month, they consider you out of that frame of where you can contract it. I liked Troye Sivan anyways. I'm a fan. But I liked his portrayal of this because I knew friends exactly like him. I had friends exactly like him. And I understand that snark is a coping mechanism for existing as a queer person in the world. Um, but I liked that he and Dara, his lesbian friend, lesbian bestie, and I like that it's a kind of a buddy movie in that respect.
Mhm.
And even though there are some missteps that happen in real life, things like that happen. You get so in with your what's going on in your life that sometimes you shut out the people that are closest to you, not intentionally. It just you become focused. You have these blinders on, and you're not seeing what's really going on around you. And I like that the film showed that because that's how life does work. Is things like that do happen. Um, but I liked their buddy relationship and that you got to see how it carried on in their life. And they're one of the true friends that you meet even in your youth that you end up holding on to later on in life. And so I really love that aspect of it. I like the fact that Judy Greer was in it, who played Suzanne, the owner of the mini mart. She's an out lesbian actor. And I like seeing her whenever she pops in something. It always makes me happy to see her. I loved having Ellen Bernstein and Louis Gossett Jr. in this. I thought it lent credibility, but in the same respect, I kind of liked it because she played a Jewish woman with a black man. And, so it had a sense of we've moved on from the racism and Semitism aspects, even though that still was hinted at a bit. But I really liked that this movie portrayed we were beyond that. We were moving past that. We were dealing with other things now. What did
Actually,
you think of it?
it came up pretty heavily in Caleb's mom,
Yes.
who was not
Yes.
accepting of anyone.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of wonder if that heartache that she went through with Caleb's father was her coping mechanism was to immediately immerse herself in something else completely. It's kind of like she almost behaved as her mother did, Ellen Bernstein's character,
Mhm.
Valerie, that Valerie couldn't give up the house she was living in because her son, the father of Caleb, who has passed away due to a heart attack, you find out, um, that she couldn't deal with moving on with her own life because of the trauma that was felt by her son's passing so suddenly. And I kind of saw the mom doing the same thing her mother did, in
Mhm.
that she just completely shifted her life and is now focused on this, and none of that happened. It's all in a box in a garage. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like
So, I mean, I babbled enough. What did you think?
it was fine. I mean, it was enjoyable, but it was a teenager being mean to the people who were closest to him. And on that front, I was like, I've seen this story before. It was well told, but it didn't grab me. Like I said, I didn't.
I did like it though. I liked it. I thought it was. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I get what you're saying, but for me, it was like uh, this was another film like Love, Simon, but I liked
Mhm.
this one better because it felt more real, whereas Love, Simon seemed put upon,
Mhm.
like it was propped up that here's a gay rom-com story we're going to tell you. Whereas this one was, this is a slice of this kid's life.
Right. I got that. I think I would like to see a teenager story about a real teenager who was extraordinary and didn't treat people like that.
I don't know what that would look like. I don't know
Exactly.
if, and I don't know if I would buy it necessarily as
I
mean,
did ask,
they would have to give a premise for a teenager who was like that. And
I did ask for it to be a true story. I would actually like it to be about a true teenager who was extraordinary. That's what I want to see.
But then you get kind of the whole thing of, and I only say this because in a writer's group I was in at one point, and this goes to people, if you're a writer and you seek out a writer's group, just know that the first one you go into, and I know this is slightly off tangent, but I'll come back to the story again, the review. You go to a writer's group, you open yourself up and your art to others who are in the same craft you are. And that sometimes you really need to gauge that audience and find out whether it's right for you. And much as Caleb did from the beginning when he went into the support group, he went in with walls up and then eventually got to the point where so my point being that, you say that about having a extraordinary teenager. The first pushback I got when I wrote a character along those lines, it was an earlier version of Elliot from my Angels of Mercy series. The thing I got back from the other authors in the group was, "Oh, no child's like this. That's just too glib." And I thought to myself, okay, you have no queer person in your family. You have nobody queer because they just thought there's no kid that talks like that. And then you turn it, and mind you, this was before the advent of social media. So then you turn to when social media and all these kids are up there, and I'm sorry, I'm seeing nothing but glib teenagers. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have that duality of people. There is a part of the population that refuses to see teens for who they are, even though they were teens at one point and thought they were the shit when they were teens. You know what I mean? It's like, it's weird. It's this weird dichotomy. And I don't know how you do a movie about an extraordinary teenager without it coming off as being, oh, they're too perfect or they're too this, and not enough of the flaws are shown that give them their humanity.
I'm not saying the main character couldn't have flaws. I think the in on my request is that it be a true story. Because then you can point to the person and say, this was a real person. It's not a fiction.
Gotcha.
Anyway, we can circle back to this film. Like I said, it was very, very well done. In terms of a piece of art, it was beautiful.
Can I just add that I am really super tired of reviewers that phone in reviews about a film, because there are 2 reviews from fairly decent platforms that reviewed this film and they gave it a 1-sentence review. I'm sorry, but if you don't have enough notes on a film to give it more than 1 sentence, 1 glib, offhanded comment, then don't do the review. Because there were 2. One of them was from RogerEbert.com. And it was just like this dismissive, oh, another teen film, Okay, it's obvious you didn't even see the film because you're just writing it off in a 1-sentence blurb that, that basically says, oh, if you're not a teen, you're not going to be into this. What? And so I just want to put that out there. We at Wrote Reviews like to give you a well-rounded discussion about these films that we talk about, because all stories are worthy of discussion to find out what works, what doesn't work. And in this case, you know, one of the other one from Metro Weekly, which is in DC, they said that it was, you know, it started out with great intent but turned into a HIV infomercial, and I'm like, what?
There was almost no
I
educational
know.
value in this film whatsoever.
I know. It was just, I was like, you know, that's what I mean is that, you know, this story needed to be told because there are teens that this happens to. And
Mhm.
if they see themselves reflected, then their feelings feel validated because they're in a difficult situation that comes to them early in life, when you're feeling your most invincible. You know, that I'm a young kid, all my life's before me, blah blah blah, slap in the face your
Mhm.
mortality. And I think it's rather interesting. I also have to say, the gentleman who played Esther, Vivek
Mhm.
Kalra, he did a really good job of playing that perfect person of color queer role. And I kind of like that this didn't end up with a happily ever after. And I'm sorry if that's a big spoiler for people, but it's kind of just you have to take this movie as a slice of Caleb's life and what happens to him and the people he meets and how he grows from the situation. That's really what this film is about. So when they say coming of age story, in this case, that's what it's about. It's about Caleb discovering that he can press forward, finding the strength within himself, and his close friend Dara to help him move through it, and how he can fuck up along the way, and he learns to own it and not just eschew it and push it aside with a flippant comment. He actually owns up to, hey, I fucked up. I'm sorry. I really messed up this time. And I like the fact that it showed a teen doing that, growing, so you don't have a snarky teen in the beginning who can still be snarky at the end, but comes from a different place. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know, so
Yep.
um any other thoughts you have about the film? I thought the production was well done. I thought,
Oh, God, yeah.
for an independent film,
It was very well done.
yeah. So, and the fact that they got a decent soundtrack out of it too. I guess the soundtrack is available out there, so people want to check that out as well.
Mhm.
All right, you want to get to ratings?
Sure. Overall production, 4. It was very well done for an indie film. Script screenplay, I gave it a 4. Because, and here's where the magic was, and I know I didn't say this earlier, you get an amazing understanding and feel for the lives of the adults in the film as well. You know that his grandmother is dealing with issues of aging and giving up her home. You know that
And
Benny, her
loss.
and loss, definitely the loss of her son. Benny, who is her paramour, they never really go into a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the, and I hate to
Her
say,
living with sin.
well, and it's an elderly couple in South Florida,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they're companions. Let's say companions.
yeah, yes.
You get a lot of his personality too. The Suzanne, the woman who owns the store, has having marital problems, and you learn all about her story. So the stories and script screenplay, the reason I gave it a 4 is they are so well interwoven that you can find something to attach to, even if you don't identify with the teenager.
Right.
Sound, lighting, score, again, production value was great. The score is phenomenal. Gave it a 4. Art direction, costuming, on point for a period film. Gave it a 4. Casting, 4. I loved everybody in it. Directing, 4. The story was told, I think, the way it was exactly was supposed to be. Queer themes presented. I did give it a 4, but it really is, again, because of the lives of other people. Because you have Caleb's story and his dealing with HIV, but his doctor and the guy who runs the support group that he's in is also with a man.
Yes.
And so
Well,
you
it's
got to
Pride
see,
Center, so.
yeah, well, yeah, but you got to see some generational gay relationships as well, which I thought was perfect. So personal
Yes.
overall rating, it was 4s across the board.
Yes. Yes. I pretty much, mine are almost in line with yours. The only one that I gave a 5 to, they're all 4s with the exception of script and screenplay, because I really did like how he wrote this film. The director and the writer of the film is Jared Frieder. And I think he did a marvelous job in both camps of directing and writing. But I'm going to give the screenplay a higher nod to a 5, only because I like writing that challenges me, and the fact that nothing was buttoned up nicely, that you had to draw your own conclusions, you had to assign what you felt happened in the end. I like stories that are like that, that don't tie everything up. And I know a lot of people really do. They like the riding off into the sunset, holding hands kind of thing.
Or just
But
knowing. See, that I think that might be what's sticking with me the most is the whole focus of the film was him waiting to find an answer. 3 months of torture waiting for an answer that we, the audience, never get.
yeah, yeah.
And I know that's not what
But
that's not the message of the movie. I get that. But by the same token, as a child of the modern era, I do like my answers when it's the thrust of the story.
yeah, but I almost think that in his case, it almost didn't matter because he had found that strength in himself to press forward. And
I get
so
that.
whether
And
or not you
that's the
got the
message.
answer,
I get that.
right. And I think the doctor kind of gives you a clue at the 60-day mark when he says, well, we're out this far, chances are you look pretty good, So there is a hint in that direction, but it still leaves it open-ended. It still allows you to draw your own conclusions and stay for the credits, because that's when you get to see the photos of what goes on later in his life after the final scene of the
After
film.
graduation.
Yeah. So, that part of it's kind of nice. I also I love that we get a new Troye Sivan song. I liked it. And so, I just think that all around it was a movie worth seeing. So, so my final summation is a 4.75. So that's it for this week. I want to say that, Vance and I often like to plan what our next films are, but sometimes there are movies like this that crop up in the
Like out of
moment.
nowhere.
And so we kind of want to jump on them when they happen. So we will get to some of the films we have on our list. But if there's a film that you want us to review, one that may have come out that we haven't mentioned yet, please let us know down in the comments. Like, subscribe, tell your friends about what we're doing here, and giving these in-depth discussions. And if you've got a feeling about the film that we've just reviewed or one of our other ones, please comment and let us know. We'd love to have that dialogue and find out what y'all think about it. So, until then, I'm S.A. Baz Collins.
And Vance Bastion.
We'll see you at the movies. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.